Showtime in the University City. It's time for another episode of Three Guys Before the Game. This is our Texas Tech recap, our TCU preview with the boys, the Senator front and present, well groomed with his Three Guys pullover, and joining us from Kirchville Studios, remote in parts unknown, it's the Dean, Hoppy Kirchville. He'll be by just shortly here with obvious observations and a whole lot more. Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Jan Dills, attorneys at law. They do not take no for an answer. Try it and they'll say, try again. Three Guys brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. By GoMart. Get a GoMart rewards card. Immediately start saving on your food and your fuel. Download it on your app device, wherever you get your apps, or just go to GoMart.com to get the app. Three Guys brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They sell family fun. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. By Tudor's Biscuit World. Start your day the homemade way with a Tudor's Biscuit. And by Conley CPA Group, providing value beyond numbers. It always comes down to the numbers. And Mountaineer basketball team did not have the numbers on Saturday in Lubbock, Texas. Had them for the first 15 minutes. Problem is, game lasts 40. I mean, if they would have just say, hey, listen, we got things to do. We're going to call this thing off at 5 minutes to go in the game. West Virginia would have been up fine. Right? Up 9 at that point. Then, Tech closes 15-3 run, and they go up 3 at halftime, and they outscore West Virginia, just pounded them by 19 points, 43-24 in the second frame, and they win the game 73-51. What's it mean? Why did it happen? We'll break it down pretty simple why it happened. Meanwhile, kind of almost an identical result. So West Virginia men get beat by the Red Raiders 73-51. That's 22 points. TCU women beat West Virginia 71-50 by 21 points, which makes me want to say, let's get the hell out of Texas. That was not a good weekend at all in the Lone Star State. Got to make shots, man. Got to make shots. Here we go. Final totals. This is not, by the way, spreads on stats. This is just like an appetizer. Like, this is kind of when the wait staff comes over and says, can we get you a water to get you started? I'm just going to give you a little water to get you started. West Virginia shot 33% against Texas Tech from the field, 22% from three. WV women shot 31% for the game, 17% from three. That is, can't win. Almost impossible to win. So we're not sitting here today going like, it was the officiating, it was the whistle, although there were some bad calls.
Although yes.
In the men's game. On the women's side, they did go 11-13 at the foul line. Tech went 13-17, so it wasn't a massive thing. But anyway, we go on to the point. Hello, Mr. Hoppy. How are you?
Good afternoon, folks. You ready for obvious observation?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously we are.
Obviously. Well, first, with this West Virginia team, you go into every game thinking you got a chance because of the way they've played this season. But you knew this was going to be a tough out, right? I mean, Texas Tech is one of the best, if not the best team in the league. You'll find out more tonight when they have the rematch with Houston. But here's a team, Brad, they were averaging 82 points a game, West Virginia averaging 69, so you knew there was going to be a challenge there. You're on the road. And like you said, Tony, you got off to a good start. Hansberry was really good early for that first 15 minutes. Then Javon gets the 2 fouls. And West Virginia, at the end of the first half, cold shooting. In the second half, they start out missing 16 of their first 20 shots in the second half.
Ouch.
And you're just, and as you said, Tony, shot 33% from the game. You're not going to beat Texas Tech. You're not going to beat anybody shooting 33% for the game. You got out-rebounded by 10. And Toppin's a dude, right? I mean, projected first-rounder. And he has 22 points, 9 of 16 shooting. And after the game, McCaslin was really complimentary of Christian Anderson, the freshman, who had 21 points and had a great defensive effort. So that's a really good team. And look, sometimes it just when the shots aren't falling and you're playing a really good team on the road, it gets away from you. And that's what happened in that game. And now you got to regroup and rebound and get even with TCU because you owe them and they're coming in and you owe them and you got a chance to get right and you owe them after what happened in Fort Worth.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
Oh,
Agree.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, agree. Just because and then there will be another biggest game of the season if you win that. But you're kind of survive in advance at this point, right? March has already started if you're West Virginia in terms of those home games. Yeah, I agree with most of what you said there, guys. And it's just another one of those. The Texas swing this month was not good to us. The TCU game should have been a win, right? Yeah. You walk out of there, a team that can't shoot a free throw makes 142% from the line.
Yep.
They were outstanding. You go to Baylor, you have them beat, except that giant lake appeared under the basket, and you can't get a finish, among other things. And then on Saturday, it's too bad, too, and it's the end score is not really indicative of how that game went, in my opinion. The second half got away from you, and that's a very good Texas Tech team, there's no doubt. But you were, and I'll talk more about this later, you can see how close this team is. And I think you always have to remember you're doing this without what would have been your best player going into this season in Tucker DeVries. But yet you watch that first half, and you talk about preparation being on point and then execution being on point for the first, really, it was 18 and a half minutes that you led that first half until they caught you with a minute and a half to go in that game. The execution was perfect, Hoppy. The defense was doing exactly what you wanted it to do. You were forcing Tech to settle. You were forcing their ball handlers to come off screens and have to be a scorer rather than lobbing or finding Toppin. Toppin was out of it. Went 0 for his first 6. You were controlling him, and you were slowing the pace to where you wanted it to be, yet running in a couple opportunities. It was right there. It just simply came down to you just missed too many shots. And I know we giggle and laugh all the time when we say you got to make shots. This is a make shot sport. And when you're West Virginia and you rely on the three like you do, nearly 50% of your shots, if you shoot, what did West Virginia shoot from three? It was not pretty, I realized.
20-some%, 20%, right? 20 couple.
22%. Yeah, so if you take 50% of your shots are threes and you only make 22%, that's probably not going to be the outcome you want against a very good team. So you can see it in there. You can see the promise that's in there. You can see the game planning that's there. You can see the execution by the guys for a good chunk, and then just didn't have it on Saturday for the second half, and they got going. And again, that's a very good team, and you let them get going and score 1.5-ish points per possession, you're going to have a tough night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Reality is this, although people don't want to say it. You're getting out. You're playing teams that have better talent. Plain and simple. They have more better players. I'll go back to that, my MVP. There are teams that we're playing that have more better players. Now, there are ways to beat them, right? There are ways to beat them. It doesn't matter. The most talented team doesn't always win. It's the team that plays the best that day. And that's what West Virginia is trying to do. They're trying to be the best team that day. But they know that you're dealing with fire because you're playing against some really talented players. There's probably a really good chance that at some point, Toppin, Darian Williams, and Christian Anderson, who you mentioned, Hoppy, are probably in the league. And so you have to have like no margin for error. And to your point, when you get open looks, you have to put the ball down, and then you'd be right there. So that's going to be the situation for the rest of this season. Now, going forward in this program, you're going to get more better players. They're coming, right? As soon as you put Tucker back into the mix next year, you go like massive jump. And then who else you also get in this recruiting season that will be coming up in the portal. So you're going to get there, and you're going to line up some of these days in this league, and you're going to go, guess what? West Virginia's got more better players than this team. But at this point, because of situations, and you just got to be the best team that day.
Well, and some of it's going to be these guys that you currently have are going to be the more better players. You're going into battle with babies here. Amani Hansberry really hasn't played at this level. We'll talk about him because he's really coming on. Jonathan Powell has not played at this level. You're playing Jonathan Powell a lot more than you would ideally like to give him a chance to acclimate. Now, there's a payoff down the road, so you would think those guys in particular. Sincere Harris hasn't played a lot of college basketball. You're relying him a ton. KJ Tenner, you've put him right into the fire. You're relying on him more than you had intended when you first started. So that's the other part of it, too. You're just going into battle with guys that just haven't played at this level, and they're hanging around in most of these games. You start to go through this, guys. We beat Iowa State. You beat Kansas at the Fog. You beat Arizona. Those are 3 teams right there that are going to contend deep into March, 2 of which are probably going to be number 1 seeds, right? In Iowa State, and then I was going to say the second half of Houston. You had them beat. You played right with them there. You had Texas Tech in the first half. You were right there with them. You had Baylor for almost the entire game. You had BYU that's ahead of you in the standing. So I continue to say I think it's pretty remarkable they're doing what they're doing, having to rely on guys that just haven't had to do it at this level. And you're seeing, that's why I say, you can see behind the curtain. You can see what's coming down the road. It's just sometimes frustrating in the moment that you can't get over the hump when you're right there. And you're right there playing with guys, and sometimes those shots don't fall, and they didn't on Saturday.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. You know, you want to use a football analogy here. West Virginia's offensive line really struggled when Zach Frazier was a baby and that gang was a baby, right? And they had to play earlier than normal. And then what happened by the time they had all matured, right? They're among the nation's best teams in running the football. And the same thing could be here. If you can keep these guys together over the next couple of years, yeah, that can be the case. Now, football is a lot more, or basketball is a lot more, I think, fluid, maybe, than football is roster-wise. Who knows nowadays? So you're going to have the whole retention conversation, which I'm sure we'll have going forward. But if you could keep the majority of these guys together and then go get others, which they will, then you'll be in really good shape.
Here's the other part. I was going to use this on Spread on Stats. We'll throw it on now. It's because it's the number that we're watching most closely. West Virginia still, again, as we sit here with, 2 weeks to go in the season now? 4 games left? 3 games left? I don't know how many we have. 4 games left. West Virginia continues to be solidly in the NCAA tournament field, which, again, I will say is absolutely amazing given everything we just said. Sitting at a 9.62 average bracket number. You're on the 10 seed line, but you're the lowest 10. Of all the brackets on Bracket Matrix, not a single one has you out of the tournament field as you sit today.
They did take a pretty significant drop at Ken Palm. They've been hovering at 46, 47, 45, even with losses. But they dropped to what, Brad? 51.
They're 47. They went to 50, and they fell another one after games last night, so they're at 51. But that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Now you're on to the brackets and the projections of that. So that is what it is. You're not going to move much in the Ken Palm analytic numbers because your games are going to be close. The only way you move significantly there is to have blowout situations, and you're just not going to have many of those. So you won't move much out of there.
And to your point, the margin for error now, you got 2 at home and you got 2 on the road. Mm-hmm. And your margin for error at home is, guess what, 0. Can't lose to TCU, and you can't lose to UCF unless you go beat Utah and go beat BYU, but you're playing with fire. So get what you can get taken care of at home, and then just to go take your swings when they go to Utah, and that's going to be a long trip. It's a Saturday late game. It's a Tuesday late game. It's hard, but you're going to have to go out there and find a way to get it done.
Sure. There's been hard games all year.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Go take your swings.
3 Guys Before the Game is brought to us by GoMart. You got to use this GoMart app, and you might say, why do I have to use the GoMart app? Well, I don't know. Do you just like to throw money out of your wallet and leave it on the ground and walk away from it? I don't think you do. Do you, Hoppy?
No, I want to save money.
I know you because the mothballs come out of, and the moths also come out of his wallet. But right now, if you're a member and have the GoMart app, this is what happens. You will get unlocked exclusive contest and special member pricing. So they'll have deals like buy 6, get 1 free on select snacks. This is a big snack podcast. I mean, league leader in snacks. Plus, you can play monthly games and get 20 cents off per gallon of gas after your first round. So they got all these games on there. You just play the game once, you get 20 cents off a gallon of gas for as much as you fill up. Like Charlie in Midlothian, I don't know how he'd game this system, but he'd find a way to get 700 gallons of gas at 20 cents off. Download the GoMart app today and join for the fun. All right. You guys ready for some numbers here?
Absolutely.
You ready for numbers, bro?
I am. I'm doing some as we speak.
You're doing
here.
something on your phone, or how many things you got there?
I got 2 things going.
Hey, you should have seen your boy Saturday, Hoppy. Yeah, he had internet issues.
Oh my gosh, probably tough. His head blew off.
Oh boy, you talk about, he was getting tight. He was getting tight.
What were they? I mean,
turn the internet on.
They don't have the internet in.
Well, he was having a problem. I don't know what system computer he's using, but he got. It was tense, but I knew he'd be all right. I knew he'd come out of it.
So I checked the numbers. We'll just go right to the numbers. Here comes a heater.
Let's jump into the analytics portion of the show. All right, this is Spreads on Stats. If you're, by chance, a first-time listener, thanks for coming in. But Spreads on Stats breaks down the numbers in detail analytically. It's brought to us by Conley's CPA Group. They provide value beyond numbers. What they do is they're a complete service public accounting and consultation firm serving clients in every one of our states, all 55, right? From the top of the state to the bottom of the state and both sides, all over, all 55. Count them. Getting ready and celebrating their 40th anniversary right now, which means they've done this for a really long time. So if you're a business owner and you need someone to help you with your accounting, they can outsource that. They can also outsource your CFO services. They can outsource your CFO services, he said, and do it all. Great people, tremendous people. If you want to work with people that are local, been here in West Virginia, know West Virginia, that's them, Conley CPA Group. All right, so when you turn your 17 computers on and caused a power surge in your development when you turned everything on, like what did the numbers say?
Well, again, this is one where we can keep this segment fairly short. I think we just went over the key ones. It was, you make shots in this game, you hit some of those threes, especially in that first half. If you get that thing up to 12 or 15, which was not unreasonable given how your defense was playing and how much they were struggling to get their own shots, then maybe you could hang on. Then I think you could have made it really tense. That building was dead quiet, Hoppy, for the first 18 minutes of that half. Then it got cranked up. That's a big arena in there, and they got going once Tech got rolling a little bit. But you would have been in some better shape if you had made shots. And I just look around the arc for West Virginia. 1 of 6 from the left wing, 2 of 9 from the top of the key 3, and 1 of 6 from the right wing. That's usually where West Virginia makes its hay, is right around the called above the break threes in those 3 zones. Just didn't get him.
I know you're going to get to this, but I bet you in the uncontested open look category, we're going to want to punch ourselves in the head. Get a bunch of open looks?
I was wondering about that too.
Here we
Contested versus uncontested.
See, I know. Here he comes. He clenched his fist together, so this is going to be bad.
So he's got something.
It's not good.
You had 20 total catch-and-shoot jumpers against Texas Tech.
Yeah?
14 of them unguarded.
Oh.
So that, again, that offense was working the way you want it to work. The motion was working. You were getting guys involved, the ball movement, the pick and pop for Amani. 14 unguarded jump shots. You got just 12 points out of those.
So 70% were open shots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Last 3 games, you've had 29 unguarded catch and shoots out of 50 total catch and shoots. Almost 60%. Last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
You're 1 and 2 over those games. So again, I know we giggle and laugh. You got to make shots. It really is that easy on the offensive end. Easy to say, not easy to do. I know, but just make some baskets.
So
can I ask a question about that?
Let's see. Since you did raise your hand, yeah, go ahead.
Well, to both of you, in that, again, we talk about it's obvious you got to make shots, but you rarely hear Coach DeVries talk about making shots.
No,
is that because you're doing all the things you're supposed to do and you're getting the shots? They're just not falling.
He's the best I've ever been around at just simply taking that for what it's worth. That's part of basketball, and he handles it better than anybody I've been around in terms of there are some nights when you make shots that you're probably not supposed to make. You'll hit them with guys in your face. You'll hit them in the last 4 seconds of the clock, and you also don't apologize for those, right? So he doesn't dwell when you don't make shots, and there's just nothing else you can do. You've got guys that can shoot and can make it that are in position to make it, and sometimes they don't go down. And some of that, guys, it's you're at the end of the season here. This is a group that has played a lot of high leverage possessions. There's got to be some fatigue. And I know Darren won't say that. None of these players will say that. This has been a grind for these guys for a long time going back into June. And sometimes that shows up more on your shots than it does anywhere else. So I can sit up here and it's really easy to say, oh, you got wide open shots, make shots. That's really easy to say. When you're the guys grinding and you're huffing and puffing and you're guarding and you're banging and it's physical, sometimes they do not go in, and that generally shows up more this time of year than in the beginning of the year. It just does.
1,000%, right? 4-4 running backs. 4-4 running backs in September. 4-4 running backs in September run 4-8 in November. You wear down. You wear down. And I'm sure some of what's going on is there. And I think Darren's really good. He's not a blamer at guys that miss shots. Because why? because he knows they want to make the shot. So if they see something that they can correct, they'll make a suggestion, but they know there's not a whole lot you can do. And if you blame and you get up in on them, then a lot of times it turns out to be a negative and they really tighten up.
Well, there's a big difference between a shot that doesn't go down and a bad shot. Okay. And Brad, you probably have a stat on this, but I don't see this team taking many bad shots.
Very few.
Very few.
It takes very few. I mean, occasionally it will, or a quick shot or shot you didn't want to shoot that early in the clock, but it very rarely does. That's what's impressed me so much is not just the X and O's and the system that's been developed, but again, how quickly these guys have bought in and understand their roles, and they just very rarely step outside of that. It's just sometimes they don't go. And Tony, your analogy to football there may be similar to how often guys down the stretch of the season do we start talking about, is Garrett Green 100% healthy? Is Jaheim White healthy? Dang it, you're without C.J. Donaldson today. You know what? Remax out of the lineup. Wyatt Milam's not playing in this game. The tiredness and the missing of jump shots probably is the equivalent to the dings that show up in football where guys miss games or they play in games but they're not 100%. That's probably similar to this, right? You have less injuries but more fatigue from these guys, and that shows up in the skill part of it, I would think.
No, I agree with you. And I think also older guys, you take a look, someone nationally had a good story out last week about how the really good teams in college basketball this season, right, the Auburns and those Alabamas, they're really old teams. And so they are guys that are more mature, that are used to this, that are used to the grind, and they get through it. And I think younger guys, it takes a while for some of these guys, like an Amani, like a Jonathan Powell, that haven't played in these types of games. Now, a year from now, it's going to be a been there, done that for those guys. It won't be as big of a deal, but first time through, it's hard.
Here's the other thing, guys. You have to go back to January 4th against Oklahoma State, and you never, because it was early in the season, you never felt comfortable that they weren't going to come back and make a run at you. That's the only blowout game since January 4th. When I say high leverage games with high leverage possessions, it's every one since then has been an absolute battle. That takes its toll, especially on guys that aren't used to having to play 30-plus games at that level of intricacy and that level of physicality. That is going to take a toll, whether you say it or not.
Yeah.
Hoppy, here's another point to you on Darren. Here's the other part why he doesn't focus as much on missed shots. Because, yes, to your point, you can only do what you can do. You design the offense, and then you run the offense, and you get the open looks, and you're going to make the shot or you're not going to make the shot. Where he gets really bummed out and the focus goes to defense so often, as you saw in the second half against Texas Tech. Now, some of this is credit to Texas Tech. They went from settling in the first 18 minutes, which is what West Virginia wanted them to do, to they said, you know what, we're bigger. We have bigger bodies here, and they're not going to call fouls on us in our building. They're going to be called on West Virginia. So we're going to drive and get that contact, and we're going to take it to the rack and make the officials make a decision, or we're just going to score. And that worked in their favor. That was a very nice switch the last couple of minutes, and I thought that showed up rather clearly as you then went in the second half. They just put their head down and went to the basket and got almost 1.5 points per possession. I say this all the time. If you average 1.1, you're going to lead the country in efficiency in points per possession. Texas Tech was 1.5 in the second half, coupled with West Virginia not making its shots. That's how you get a 20-point loss. Mm-hmm. It's simply those two things.
Yeah. Also, your one opportunity to take advantage of them because they had a starter that was out. And Chance McMillan is really, really good, like 65 threes going into the season. Well, here comes Christian Anderson. And we've got an NBA buddy who told us about 3 weeks ago, everyone's talking about Williams and Toppin at Texas Tech. He said, I think this guy is the next pro, is a pro. And he's a baby. I mean, a baby. And you could just instantly tell anyone that watched that game on Saturday, he does things that NBA players do. He makes tough contested shots. He's absolutely just undaunted by anything. And he's a freshman. So, again, they got a really super good player. And he came through and had a career day. Made shots.
They have several good players.
Yeah, I mean, what you need is one of their reserves to come in and go like 2 for 11. That's what you need. You don't need a guy to come in there and almost have to call the Lubbock Fire Department to put out the nets because he went absolutely stupid. He goes 7 of 13 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3. He gets 4 rebounds, 4 assists, in 38 minutes, and he's got 21 points in a spot start.
McCaslin couldn't stop talking about Anderson in the postgame.
Yeah.
Just in the jobs he did. He did say really good things about West Virginia's defense, which comes back to the point about West Virginia struggles offensively. And, Brad and Tony, you guys say this all the time. It's hard, if not impossible, unless you have all NBA guys, to do everything well, right? And Darren DeVries is defense first, and he talks about defense all the time. And this is a very good defensive team. Game in and game out, they are. You look at the stats, they are, and how they play. But boy, doesn't that make it harder on the offensive end?
Sure.
When you're playing your butt off on the defensive end?
So here's some final defensive numbers here to wrap up this segment to illustrate my point. You held them to 34% field goal shooting in the first half and 16% from three. Man, that's a win, right? Those are wins. If you knew that wasn't going to continue at that level, but it flipped all the way to 59% field goal percentage in the second and 50% from three. Now, I know they made a couple of those threes late when the game was decided and they kept attacking at you, but that's so be it. The first half was where it was. You couldn't continue that on in the second. Number two, they had the 16th best Tech did transition offense in the country in terms of points per possession. They didn't get their first fast break points until 4 minutes left in the first half. I mean, you were executing right where you wanted to be. And then again, for every single road game West Virginia's had, it's been called for more fouls than its opponent. So that streak continues as well.
Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Comax Business Systems. If you're involved in a business owner, or someone that runs an office, if you're looking for a refreshing upgrade for your office, Comax has got something for you. This even sounds cool. The I-12 water cooler. Sleek design meets cutting-edge technology. We're talking, Hoppy, separate water delivery and ice production of 44 pounds of ice a day. I mean, cubes for everyone. Perfect way to keep your busy workplace hydrated, and it puts a smile on everyone's face. Remember, Brad, when Hoppy used to be here, everyone walk around. They'd walk around. Everyone, you know why? Frowns. They're frowning because they weren't hydrated enough. So you get this water machine, you see, Hop.
Yeah.
Everyone smiles.
Hydrated.
Just one of the many things that Comex puts into the workplace. Visit them at comexwv.com. That's comexwv.com.
Hydration underrated.
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot of emphasis on it, yet still underrated. 100%.
Hey, one last thing we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, once again, sharpshooter Jake Auer comes in the game. He was in the game for less than a half a second and sticks a three from the corner.
I think he was out there maybe more than a half second.
Not much. I mean,
he wasn't
Small
out there for
took two dribbles, threw it to him, and he made a three.
Yeah, he wasn't out there for 30.
30? It wasn't three.
Nah, it might have been more than three.
Fired that thing up. I think he's 8 of 13 now on the year from three.
Yeah. That's good. Good. I like
good
that.
job, Jake.
So now we go to the TCU game, which the 9 o'clock start. Okay. I could see a 9 o'clock start when you're on the road. I get 9 o'clock on the road because, right, difference in time.
It's usually Central Time Zone, right?
I mean, yeah, they say, but like 9
or
o'clock.
Hawaii time, wherever we are.
Why is it 9 o'clock?
I don't have an answer.
CBS just said you're going to play at 9, right?
I guess you're right. So the TCUs were on the road at Cincinnati on Saturday and got beat in that game. Cincinnati has certainly been mercurial, haven't they?
They have.
They go up, they go down. So now TCU did not go home to Fort Worth. So they've been on the road since Friday. So now they come in here on Tuesday. And you should have got them at their place. Should have got them at their place. You got to get a win. Plain and simple. All right, what has to happen?
Couple things here with them, and you were up 12. You were in control of this game. The first thing that has to happen is you're back home, so hopefully the fouls switch back over. You're not on the road where I just mentioned every single game on the road this year you've been called for more fouls. Hopefully now there'll be some defense without getting called for all these fouls. Secondly, when you put TCU on the line, they need to be what they are, not be Rick Barry-esque for all our old listeners. Made every almost they shot like what 88%?
20 of 23.
Steph Curry.
Yeah, you might want to update that.
Well, I don't know if anybody younger listens to this podcast. I don't know who listens. 88% from the free throw line against West Virginia the first time. They are, first of all, they only shoot 65% on average, and that includes that game against West Virginia. That's 350th out of 367 teams. It's one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, and they were blistering hot with a lot of attempts against West Virginia in the first game. So that's first and foremost. Hopefully the whistle goes your way. The style of officiating matters, as I say every week. It matters big time in this one. The second part, and this will be really interesting, this is kind of nuanced, Hop. We're going to get down in the weeds here a little bit. But in the first half of the game at TCU, TCU was trying to pass the ball around the perimeter, and West Virginia feasted. Like deflected, it felt like every single ball went the other way on transition, got layups, and that's part of what built the 12-point lead. Again, you're getting a really good coach in Jamie Dixon. So he says, well, that's not sustainable. This isn't working. So what are we going to do? So they changed and went to more ball-centric ISO, heavy screen, don't pass it. We're just going to run you off screens and we're going to take over. And those two guards had a really good second half. Both of them had really good second halves. And it limited West Virginia's ability to get turnovers, which was leading to a bunch of West Virginia points. So that's something I'm watching. Again, Jamie's really good, so he knows that. So I would expect them to go back to that to start. West Virginia's going to have a counter ready for that. And which of those counters works best and who gets the adjustment right? That's something I'm going to watch early with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
And,
both the guards were big numbers in the first game.
Yeah, Noah Reynolds averages 12 points a game. He was 6 of 9 shooting a game for 20 points in that first game.
Yeah, and
8 above his average in that game.
Yeah, and you expect him. I mean, he's good. He's in that middle ball screen. He's tough to defend. Aulette was the one that was surprising. He went off for a double-double. He only shoots 43% from 2, and he's only 22% from 3. He had a really good game in that first meeting and was a double-double guy in that game. So you've got to contain those guys. He did a pretty good job on their bigs and their size because they're a decent offensive rebounding team, as you expect with Jamie Dixon's group. They also defend the 3 pretty well. So the fact that you're home, does that help you get some comfortability with the rims, with the arena? I know the crowd may not be what it's been on some Saturdays, but can you get some energy boost and get back to making some open looks from 3?
Well, you've got to, and you guys said this at the outset, you have to get this one right. I mean, you have to get this one because this is your best opportunity, I think, given the situation, given the revenge factor, given you're going on the road. This is your best opportunity of the last 4 games, I think, to get a.
Yeah, man, you wish you would have had them after their Texas Tech win, don't you? I mean, you knew there was a give back coming, and they lost to Cincinnati on the road. So this will be another fight. There's no question. This will be another rock fight. I'm with Tony, though. You had this team in Fort Worth. It was simply the free throw line changed the whole tenor of this game and got them a win. I got to hope that's not the case this time. You shoot it a little bit better. You got to come out and bring it, though. No question.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say they made 4 times as many shots at the line as West Virginia took.
Mm-hmm. It was
4
unbelievable.
times as many.
Oh, yeah, we're aware of that. We're aware of that.
Well aware.
Yeah, well,
thank you. Well aware.
Had to watch it. Had to live through it.
And they made them all.
So the good news is there's only 3 Big 12 games Tuesday night, which means that you only need 9 officials in your league, which means that the experience level of your officials will probably be better than it is on a Saturday when you have as many as 6, 7 league games going on. So you have more experienced officials potentially on midweek Tuesdays than you do on weekend games. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's good. That's a good thing.
You don't need the whistle to swing back the other way. You just need it to be even-ish.
Yeah. West Virginia.
No, just go ahead and swing back the other way.
2 of 5 is what West Virginia was at the foul line.
Excuse me?
They were 2 out of 5 at the foul line.
Versus 20 of 23.
I won't rehash the numbers from the last podcast after this game, but it was outrageous. I'll leave it at that.
Not good.
So go get them. Go take it to them. Start with defense. That's the other thing, too, guys. It's funny how this works, and it's part of why Darren talks about this all the time. When West Virginia's defense is bouncy and engaged and getting deflections and getting steals and runouts, it's funny how the three-point shooting follows that. Right? You wouldn't think one has anything to do with the other, but that really is true for this team. Their energy is derived from the defensive effort and production, and then the offense generally follows behind that.
Or, on the other, if they make a 3, they come down and they're bouncier on defense. Right? Works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of the
It
all-time.
does, but it usually is driven by the defense. This team and energy, and Darren on the sideline gets cranked when the defensive intensity is there. That's generally what drives it.
As one of the all-time great scorers in Iowa history, would you admit that your defense was better after you tinkled the twine and ran back down to play D?
Maybe.
You just didn't play defense at all.
That's untrue.
I'm asking.
It's totally untrue. No, you weren't asking. That was a declarative statement, and I'm not accepting your declarative statement.
Did you think that when you scored, you played better defense?
I like to think I brought my defense the whole game.
It's not from what I heard.
I wasn't there coasting.
Speaking of defense,
I should have shot more. I've told you that all the time. I played too much defense and didn't shoot enough. Yes, Hoppy.
No, you passed too much. Should have taken the shot. Is that the crowd gets into it when the team makes a run or scores. The crowd also gets into it when Sincere Harris is on a guy like a pit bull. Okay, so that brings the crowd into it too. Is what Sincere Harris is guarding a guy like 100% of the court.
He did that at TCU, and it was one of the all-time greats. They inbounded it, and the guy said, "I don't want it," and threw it to the other guard to bring it up. And Sincere jumped over to that guy, picked him, and laid it in. That's why at that TCU, I thought, you do that, that's ball game. That was early, but I thought ball game right there. So yeah, that's why, guys, that's part of why I always talk about the officiating, and the style matters and how they want to call it matters, because you're right, Hop. That's the head of the snake for this defense, and that's what drives the energy, not just in the stands, but on this team. And if they're whistling everything, that makes it harder for him to get up and play like he plays. So you want some, even if it happens on the other end, I'm fine with some physicality on the other end, as long as you let West Virginia do that. It's when it's both ends where you're getting the opposite call of what you should be getting that makes it difficult. Style of play, let it be physical. That's fine. Let it go. But you need to do it at both ends.
It's been a real winner. I don't need to tell you that. I mean, it's been a real winner. Old school winner. Like someone told me today, worst winners since 2016. So about 10 years, almost 10 years. But guess what? Weather's changing. Sun's coming up. It's a little bit brighter. It's a little bit stronger. And that means it won't be long before those buds come on those trees and you're thinking about put that boat in the water. Lou Wendell Marine Sales is an official partner of Three Guys Before the Game, and they're getting things ready like right now, like everyone at their location in St. Albans, getting the boats to be ready. So they are the premier pontoon boat dealer in our state of West Virginia. No one does it better. No one sells more, and they sell the Avalon pontoon boats, which are made right here in the United States of America. They also have those G3 John boats. They've got it all. They've been in business for almost half of a century. Half a century. 50 years. Think about that. They've been putting people into the water, and guess what? Good news is, Hoppy, they've been taking them out as well. They put them in, and they take them out as well. And right there, if you're watching on the YouTubes or wherever, that is just a lineup of those pontoons right there at their St. Albans location. So if it's something that you're into, something you're thinking about getting into, don't make a mistake and not check out Lou Wendell Marine Sales at louwendellmarinesales.com.
It's been so cold out. This today feels like a lake day.
Yeah,
it's nice out. That sun's out.
When you've had a lot of cold and it gets to like 43 degrees, all of a sudden it feels like 74. It's one of the great.
Yeah. Awesome. We're above 43 though. It's warmer than that.
It's 50. It's currently 52 degrees.
Yeah, let's roll.
52.
I think. Let me
52. That sounds about right.
52.
Yeah, 52 degrees. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, as far as the WVU women go, that was an ouch. Huh?
Yeah.
Tough one.
Same thing. Didn't make shots.
Didn't make shots, man. They've got the surprise team of Big 12 women's coming up Wednesday at the Coliseum. That's Utah. And then they go to Cincy this weekend. And then that's it. This is their last game at home on Wednesday. They're done.
Yeah, that's wild.
Did you hear that, Hop? They're done.
It goes by fast. I mean, you get into basketball season starts slow. Now they're playing in October, November, December, and then it gets like mid-February, and it seems like everything picks up dramatically.
You know, we mentioned this going in the game. TCU's women's team's really, really good. Added Haley Van Lith to that team that was already good in the offseason.
Right.
I thought they did a great job of having an answer every time West Virginia even tried to make a little push. TCU answered and then went on a run of its own. Listen to these streaks that TCU had. You normally look for those what Evan Mia at evanmia.com calls kill shots, 10 to 0 or more runs that you go on. TCU didn't have any of those, but they had runs. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs of 6-0, a run of 7-0, and a run of 8-0. 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 runs of 6 or more.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. West Virginia just had 1 run that was 7-0. So TCU, really good team. Hoppy's obvious observation. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 guys before the game brought to us by Jan Dills, attorneys at law, and one of their areas of specialty is helping military veterans get the compensation that they deserve. And this is a heck of a process that you have to go through the Department of Veteran Affairs. You need someone walking alongside with you. So if you are a military veteran, someone in your family, someone that you know that needs help, someone that's suffering from PTSD, back pain, hearing loss, knee injuries, Jan Dills has really a whole separate area in their firm that takes care of these matters. They've got years of experience helping U.S. veterans with the application process and all of the things that go with it. And they do not take no for an answer. No money down on your side. You get paid, they get paid. That's the way it works. If they get paid, when you win, and nothing else in between. You can give them a visit at jandills.com. That's jandills.com. And so much of that through the bureaucracy leaves people with great deals of frustration. What do you do? Well, if someone is dealing with it that you know, steer them to Jan Dills, attorneys at law. All right, let's get some healing. Time now for Textual Healing. It is brought to us by episode800.com. That's our website. Got all of our stuff there. Apparel items like the Senator is wearing, our coffee, our just everything. I mean, like everything. I looked over there. It's surprisingly, we're selling a carport now.
What?
Excuse me?
Carport. I think that,
Pardon me?
if I'm not mistaken, I thought that was on the website.
Carport?
Yeah, you can just
Is
put
that
it on the
still a
side of
thing?
your house. You just put a carport on there. Might or might not be. It might have been another place I was at. I was on a lot of websites lately.
Definitely coffee there.
Carports.com? Or
Yeah, something like that.
Carport. Carport.
Trying to get into a bunch of different things. All right, here we go. We're going to start off with a couple of seasoned listeners from the text line. I've been a Mountaineer fan for over 60 years. It was not easy traveling to Morgantown and Mountaineer Field in the early 1970s from southern West Virginia. This was before the new Route 19 and the new River Gorge Bridge.
Wow.
4.5 to 5 hours from Fayetteville to Morgantown. Think about that. Only to see our team get its butt beat by the Richmond Spiders. Of course, West Virginia has seen a whole lot of success since those days. However, the last few years have been difficult. I've remained hopeful, faithful, and thanks to YouTube, what I do is when I go to work out, I put on old games while he's at the workout facility, and he watches games from Don Nealon, Rich Rodriguez, et al. You probably recognize this priceless YouTube picture of this Georgia football fan. That's one of the all-time classic pictures right there. It was viewed after West Virginia had the 28-zip lead against Georgia. I'm anxious, excited for this new season. I enjoy listening to 3 guys, and please tell Hoppy that prunes really do work.
What?
I had suggested to Hoppy on a recent episode that maybe as he, doesn't get younger, he might want to try a prune juice smoothie. Anyway, let's go Mountaineers, excited. By the way, DeVries is a keeper. Yeah, I think we'd be in agreement with that.
Agree.
Yes.
George from Glade Springs, this is, by the way. He's out of Daniels, and he is the father-in-law to Lori from Tudor's Biscuit World.
Oh.
Oh,
Hello, George.
Yeah. Hello, George.
Always intimate West Virginia.
Start your day
Hello, Lori.
the homemade way with a Tudor's biscuit. Got a picture of that coming up. And as I said, we had a couple of season ones to start here. This gentleman says, I was a student at West Virginia in the 1950s. I watched the late, great Sam Huff, number 75, play. Later in my life, I served 20 years on Baylor's faculty. The Bears tried, but they failed. I'm a solid Mountaineer fan. I love 3 guys. Anticipate and watch every episode. Signed by Jack Weimer, located in Escondido, California. How about that?
Thank you, Jack.
My man is 92 years old, and he's watching us on the YouTubes.
It's awesome.
Excellent. That's I think is Escondido right outside of San Diego?
Sure. Wherever it needs to be, Hop, if you say so. By the way, Willie Nelson's 92. He's out there still singing. No, he's 92 now, and he's out there performing. A buddy of mine sent me some video. He's down in Florida last week performing.
Really?
92.
Wow. It's incredible.
So you're a young chicken compared to those guys, Hop.
Compared to those guys, yeah.
Texter, I want to ask, why do these so-called shows who claim they have inside information spread lies? I watched Coach Rod's press conference, and he said he watched the Texas Tech game until he threw up. Well, the next thing you see is a headline that says, Coach Rod said he threw up watching last year's team. He clearly did not say that. He actually bragged on Garrett Green, even said he didn't watch much because most of the team's gone. My other rant is these so-called fans. Can't get over him leaving. I don't like it either, but I do believe in a second chance. Honestly, after the last 6 seasons, I'm all on him coming back. I will not name names, but I saw players on the sideline laughing, cutting up when we were losing. I guarantee we won't see those undisciplined actions under the staff. Win or lose, opposing team will know they've been in a dogfight. Lastly, I say welcome home Coach Rod and his staff. Coach Rod and staff begin spring ball tomorrow.
How about that? That is, right?
Oh, my gosh.
That is tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow. February 25, they start it tomorrow.
Hello.
Texter. This goes back to Friday when Hoppy dropped a hop bomb. Remember those Woj bombs? Remember Adrian Wojnarowski used to have the Woj bomb?
Sure.
Hoppy dropped the hop bomb on Friday. You announced who the new president of the university was going to be, Hoppy. And this texter says, Hoppy bested Pete Thamel. Not sure he understands what retirement is. LOL. How about that? You and Thamel hook up on that one or what?
Thamel and I did, and he retweeted me. So thank you.
What happened
Pete.
to the views once he retweeted you?
It went from about 5, 6, 7,000 to like 250,000 because Pete Thamel has a couple followers.
I'm glad you guys.
Thank you, Pete.
I'm glad you guys have finally. Now you're partnering together. It's a wonderful thing.
Pete and I work together.
Hi, guys. Brian from Williamstown here. Yet another West Virginia connection story. My wife and I were at a conference in Seattle. Decided to fly down to San Francisco to end our trip. We go on a trip to Muir Woods. That's a redwood forest just north of the city. We Ubered there. Well, turns out we didn't have cell service once we got dropped off, leaving us not knowing how in the world we'd make it back to the city. Meanwhile, another couple behind us gets dropped off too. They looked as confused as we were. We go up to them, ask if they had just taken an Uber. They go, yeah. And we're basically in the same boat. Luckily, one of them able to keep cell service long enough to get us an Uber back to the city. Well, they were the nicest people. Turns out they were both researchers at Pitt, though the man was from Huntington and has had family in Parkersburg.
Why wouldn't he?
Now, this guy's from Williamstown. Brian's from Williamstown. My guy's got family in Parkersburg, which is just basically a stone's throw. Mm-hmm. We end up walking with them and had a blast. Luckily, neither of them were Pitt fans, but just happened to work there. Always a West Virginia connection. How about
Always.
that?
Did you want to tell the Uber story from Lubbock?
Oh, that was crazy.
Always a West Virginia connection.
I should have rolled.
I'm sure Tony was like immediately interrogating the guy, right?
No,
Brad?
he didn't have to. It just came right.
The guy.
We were in there about the same amount of time Jake was in the game before the 3 hit.
So we pop into this dude's car, and it's a student at Texas Tech.
All right.
And we pop in, and I don't know if I was wearing anything West Virginia.
He said, where are you from?
Yeah, he said, where are you from?
Why are you in Lubbock?
Yeah, why you in Lubbock? I said, we're here for the basketball game. That's all I said. Mm-hmm. He said, I was watching Tavon Austin's highlight tape last night.
Last night.
Not like, hey, I've seen that Tavon Austin thing. I go, excuse me? He said, yeah. He said, like, my girlfriend and us and some guys, we were sitting there, and I said, you ever see the Tavon Austin highlight film? He says, it's got 25 million views.
Oh, we're aware.
And I said, yeah. And then we just chatted him up. Brought us to a very nice Mexican restaurant. It was very good.
Very good. But how about the opening line, Hop? Hey, you're from West Virginia? Really? I was just watching the Tavon Austin highlight film last night.
That checks about 4 boxes.
I mean, what a
right?
crazy.
Uber driver, West Virginia connection, Tavon Austin, watching it last night.
Yeah. The only
It's
reason he was
incredible.
driving was to make enough money to go drink, right?
Yeah,
Because he got a text while we were driving. His buddy's calling him, and he's going like, he just wants me to go to the bars. But I'm just going to raise money. So whatever.
How was your text mix?
It was very good.
It was good.
Yeah, very good.
Good.
Hey, Tony and Senator, this is Brady. Lately Field 1992 DuPont Championship press box colleague. So apparently I was with him in the press box in 1992 when DuPont was playing for a World's Championship. Okay. But I'm addressing the scoring issue in the Cincinnati game. So you guys were making this big deal last show.
Oh, yeah. Good. I'm glad I read this. I'm glad he sent this. He's right. Go ahead.
So when the basket was made, they only gave them 2.
Yes.
Right.
They had it right the whole time. The announcers got excited. They weren't paying attention. Watch it back if you can. Peace.
He's right. Someone texted me that the other night, too. After the podcast, I did go back. He's exactly right. The score was correct. The play-by-play was correct. The guys got excited that they missed it. So I stand corrected. I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Texter says, in-game text, illegal screens have gotten out of hand. Since when is it acceptable for screeners to seek out contact, especially with shoulders, elbows, hips? The amount of times our guards have been chicken-winged or hip-checked by an on-ball screen is unfathomable. Solution: start Aiden Tagaloa Nelson. Let him go Kobe Bryant at the Olympics straight through the big man's chest. Set the tone early. I do think that's something Aiden would be up for. When you, Brad?
Kobe did that to teammate Paul Gasol.
Yeah,
To
right
set the
through his
tone.
chest. One of his best buddies.
Great Kobe story.
Yeah. Hello there, fellers. Tell me something. When is the right time for a coach to get a technical? Javon gets killed on one end, no call. They do the same on the other. It gets an and one. I know you never want to give the other team 2 free throws, but come on. Refs are so inconsistent that you can't adjust to the play. I feel better now that I've gotten that off my chest. Love your show and hope Hoppy is in the house today. He's good. He's in his house.
Yeah, that was one of those moments right at the end of the first half I thought really had an effect on the game. Javon went one way. There was contact at the rim, no call. They came back the other way. Toppin against Hansberry. It looked like Hansberry even had less contact, no call either way. Not a technical on Darren. That's not his style. He was hot in that moment. It wasn't for lack of expressing his displeasure to the official.
Yeah. I think if he is going to pull the technical, he's going to do it at home.
You have to do it at home. There's no reason to do it on the road because you're not going to get the benefit. You're just going to get the crowd more cranked up. You do it at home where you can get your crowd cranked up. Maybe you get some help. But listen, guys, as we've said, it's not as if there's not complaining going on and there's not explaining what's going on. It's not as if he's not alerting people to things ahead of the game. You know, I was watching last night. Here's something. And I know this came up before West Virginia played Utah. So if you want an early something to watch in that Utah game, they have a tendency to lean on you quite a bit when the rebound is in the air.
The Utes?
On the offensive end. That had been pointed out.
They'll lean on you.
Yeah, and they'll get you coming across the lane too.
You think that's that Josh Eilert teaching him how to do that?
No, I wouldn't think that's Josh, but I don't know. Maybe he's not afraid of physical play. But at the game here, Hop, this is why I always go back to who the crew is and how they call the game matters. They were on that early against Utah. One player in particular got flagged early on a couple of things and never got up off the mat. They saw right through that early. I was watching Utah play last night, doing a little advanced scouting. That same player, man, there was one time he went up and he just had his arm pinning the UCF guy, went straight in the back, and then down. UCF guy goes down. He was down for a couple minutes after the play. Catches the offensive rebound, lays it back in, no call. Those are the kind of things that can change games if you miss that. Those matter.
Mm-hmm.
Hoppy, that matters.
Yeah, of course it matters. Of course it matters.
But things like that all the time, and every team does it. There's constantly clips being sent in saying, look, explain this, explain this, explain this, watch for this. That's also happening here.
And I think, as has been said, DeVries, to me, what I've observed is he works the officials when he's got a legitimate argument and a reason to work the official. Okay? I mean, there are coaches that just are on the officials all the time. And I think when you do that, I think it's like yelling at the kid all the time. After a while, it's just noise. But if you make rational, impassioned arguments in legitimate cases, I mean, and also that's who he is. So you got to be who you are. You know, the best time for a technical is probably if your player unjustly gets a technical and you got to have his back. Then sometimes you get whistled because you got to have your guy's back. If it was an unjust call against your guy.
Yeah. Do you think he gets one before the season's over?
No.
He's never had one, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, he was playing the odds. One could
He
say
doesn't have one by now.
yeah, one could say he's due. Three Guys Before the Game is proud to have the folks at Tudor's Biscuit World as our official biscuit of this podcast. And right now, got a great deal going. You buy one and you get another item for $1 American dollar. We're talking
How much?
$1 American. You can buy the Dottie, the Peppy, the sausage biscuit, or the hash brown. Buy either one of those, and then the next one either is like, let's say I go buy a Dottie, then I can get a sausage biscuit for $1. Go buy a Dottie, I can get a hash brown for $1. Buy a sausage biscuit, I can get a Dottie for $1. You know how that works? There's four
Where's
items.
the Three Guys biscuit? Weren't we working on that?
I think the culinary staff is still in development, but you need to start your day the homemade way regardless with a Tudor's biscuit. From Joe, who's been all over the state of Texas. Great seeing you guys in Lubbock. I'm going to stop wearing my thanks for having us shirt because we keep losing road games when I wear it. 2 quick observations. The game against Tech was a true rock fight. Despite this, the foul total on the Red Raiders failed to reach double digits. That is absurd. Our seats allowed us to have a wonderful vantage point of Tony and Brad during the game. Every time I looked their way, Brad looked like he was having to explain something to Tony. So you see right there? Just kidding. Love you too. Well,
He's got a good camera there. Those are clear
Wow,
pictures.
that
I think he's also getting into our personal space.
Was
but
he
anyway,
standing right behind us?
He must have been.
Did Brad have his internet working?
I take
by
a
then?
look at that picture, and I think I got to compliment our guy Rex Hartley. Because I do not see the back of my head. He does a nice job boxing the back up there. I think, don't you? I mean, that's clean. That's clean box.
Rex
back
is
there.
super.
Yeah.
As you know, been going to him for 30 years.
I mean, Rex is terrific. Yeah. If we had an official barber, it'd probably be Rex.
No question.
I mean, you go and I go, and
No
Hoppy
question.
does the flow bee, so it really doesn't matter.
No question.
But anyway,
That's a good picture.
yeah. He so there's Joe right there. That was that pre post game. Yeah,
Oh.
post game. Yeah, so that was post something. Now he went over to the TCU women's game yesterday.
He did.
Because I talked to Junior, and Junior said, yeah, Joe was there at the game. So he was from Lubbock. He got over to Fort Worth. He's been bouncing.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I've got another.
Real quick, too. He brought us some treats.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Let me finish the text. This is my fault. He said.
Just brought us treats. I mean, I was
He said, have you enjoyed the overbites? So that was a chocolate with Reese. What was that? What was that?
Reese's. It was like
was a peanut-
like an off-brand Reese peanut butter cup.
Yeah.
But Hop, here's the story about it. Here's the story. Joe's the guy that would bring all that food for the Three Guys to Tony over the years, and he would never make it back here, and we'd never get any.
Right.
So I'm just confirming it was.
What did you think of the
bus.
peanut thing he gave you?
I haven't tried it yet. Saving it.
Too sweet. Too sweet, and chocolate's too hard. Anyway.
Wow.
Texter says, I'm meeting a customer at work the other day. Customer's wearing a Pitt sweatshirt. I asked him, do you go to Pitt? He said both he and his wife did. I told him I graduated from West Virginia. And after lamenting the fact that we don't play in the same conference anymore, he mentioned to me that not only did his nephew go to West Virginia, but his friend's son played football at WVU, was a defensive back. I said, oh, really? Well, what's his friend's son's name? He told me. Brian King.
One of the all-timers.
Oh, my gosh. Great player.
And now you know the rest of the story. That's Dan in Maryland. Now, if my memory's correct, Brian is from Damascus, Maryland. He had an interception, I think, or about a bunch, and maybe one against the Hokies.
Down there. Sealed it.
In the end zone, I believe.
Sealed it.
Slid down onto his knees.
Could have
Okay.
used him this year. Last year. Any year.
Yeah, right.
Any year.
See, he's one of
Good
those
player.
guys, even though it's been a long time, Like if you just plugged him in today, he could play today.
Oh,
Agree.
no,
Not even like Brian. Yeah, put Brian King out there.
Agree. I'd take
I'm
a
gonna
lot of
check
Brian
his
Kings.
stats. Go. I'm gonna check his stats.
Rich is probably like got an APB out. Give me Brian King's.
How many
Well, there's
Brian
no
Kings would
rules
you take?
anymore. So I mean,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
not?
I think he's a successful real estate guy now.
Yeah, he's doing
Probably
good.
wouldn't want to come back and
Doing a good kid.
Play.
Good kid. Probably an old man now. Okay, so this is really helpful here. This texter, all he said was, it is all about the angle. Take a look at this, if you would. So that is the angle of the sun during the months. So you see what happens? Like in December, Brad, that's a slight angle. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And watch what the temperature does. It goes 31, 54, 77. So we are frickin' climbing. Sun's climbing, figuratively and literally. And just getting nicer out. Texter.
Brian King is from Damascus.
Thank you. This will be a fun, quick hypothetical for you guys. I must give credit for this idea to my friend Joe Cook, who's also a Mountaineer fan, loyal listener. Now for the question. If you could add one and only one player from any WVU basketball team since 2001 to this current team, who would it be? I want to hear from all three of you. You can change your answer once within 60 seconds. Obviously, the player you choose should be able to elevate this year's team, perhaps filling in the void where deficiency currently exists. Your loyal listener, Lindbergh from so how do you say that? It looks like Luckadoo.
Luckadoo, that's not a real place.
Is that okay? Anyway,
It's made up.
I give you mine. I don't need to change my answer.
All right.
Deshaun Butler.
I take him.
That's my pick.
I'll give you mine. Tucker DeVries.
I'd take him.
Yeah, it's pretty
Right.
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good one.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd take a Kevin Jones right now. Take a little KJ.
Oh yeah.
I'd take a little Oscar Sheboy right now. Wouldn't have any rebounding issues. So I'd take any of those guys just mentioned. All A+.
I know this is hoop season.
That's a fun exercise. You know what you could do with that? You know what would be fun? Change
What?
your answer once in a 60-second period. You just go round robin. Like you name one,
Just
you name
give
one,
it
we
a-
name one. Then you try and name three more. Then you try and name three more. It'd be a fun party trick.
Yeah. I know your second pick would be Jake Auer. I know this is his basketball season, but you guys see J.J. Weatherholt's opposite field home run in his first season up in spring training. Keep it going, J.J.
Not only did I see that, he was also in the starting lineup along with Victor Scott. 2 Mountaineers in the lineup for the Cardinals.
How about that?
And the Fighting Sabins, their season's underway.
Yeah, they're playing as we tape. We might even. Can we get a live update? Get a live update on that. Just go to see what they're doing. They're going to go for the sweep
They're just lining up beating people.
of the Lipscombs. Maybe
Yeah,
someone.
the Fighting Lipscombs.
Yeah, so they're 6-0 going into today's final and fourth game against the Lipscombs.
And with weather breaking, soon we'll have our tailgate out there.
They're supposed to play at home this week, right? Wednesday. They're supposed to open at home.
Is that did it move or was that?
Yeah, it was supposed to be
that's the
tomorrow.
reschedule?
Now it's going to be Wednesday. Hey, three guys, Matt in Towson, Maryland, home of Leighton Bechtel. The other day I go for a late afternoon coffee after work. I'm backing out of my spot, and I see someone who had just pulled into the lot motioning me to put my window down. I roll my window down, and the gentleman says to me, I'm a Mountaineer. I played basketball for WVU. He must have seen my flying WV on the back of my truck. I said, what's your name? And he replied, Daxter Miles Jr. We talked a bit, still in our cars, about some of the players he competed with at West Virginia, where he attended high school. In hindsight, I should have asked Daxter if he wanted to have a picture made. I looked Daxter up, not realize what an incredible career he had, including registering the second most starts for any Mountaineer ever with 124. What are some moments for you that define Daxter in the old gold and blue? Thank you, Matt, class of 93.
That game's played's a good one because I was about to say, man, he played in a lot of games here. That was a dude that played a lot of ball. What'd he say? 124?
Yeah. Deshaun's
Jeez,
got the all-time.
that was before you could play for 7 years.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you just no real order. Daxter, as a freshman hooked up with Javon Carter, West Virginia stole a game from TCU. One of those two guys threw the ball. I think Daxter threw it down the floor to JC, and there was a phantom foul called against TCU that put Javon, I think, on the line when those guys were freshmen, made the foul shots and beat them, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was huge. And then Daxter got himself in all kinds of trouble in the day before West Virginia played Kentucky in the NCAA tournament when they were undefeated and became a national lightning rod because he said, I give them their due, but tomorrow they'll have a loss. And they blew that thing up like you could not believe. But he was extremely athletic. I'd like to ask him what his regrets are from playing here. I think he would say, I wish I took it more seriously. That's what I think. Not going to comment on the game on Saturday. I moved on to TCU. Might need a cup of coffee to stay up for the 9 p.m. tip. Speaking of moving on, I thought I'd share you this picture from my breakfast I had yesterday. I crushed both biscuits.
Wow.
And I had to include my recent Three Guys purchases. So he's got the coffee, the popcorn. He's got like Tudor's containers, travel mugs. He got the whole deal.
Connection 304.
Connection 304 beer.
Probably got that at GoMart.
Yeah.
Did he have a 304 for breakfast?
No, he's just
you're
saying everything
what he's
he has.
got. So thank you. That's
okay.
our boy Jennings in the Kanawha Valley.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Jennings.
much,
He
Jennings.
took down the
He
two.
won
He said he
Jennings.
ate both
Yeah.
those biscuits.
Took
He
the
crushed
two.
both. He
Yeah.
ate
That's a
both.
lot, man.
Took the two.
Start your day the homemade way.
What are the three?
You guys always claim you can eat two,
Wonder if he got the Three Guys biscuit with,
which may or may not.
which may or may not have cheese.
Hey, did you hear what he said? He just tried to taunt me. He goes, "You guys always claim that you could eat two." Let me ask you a question. You
Yeah.
think I could eat two, Brad?
Yeah, you've got an issue.
Brad thinks.
Did you
that-
kill
Hoppy,
it at the Texas?
I had to,
What's
help,
that? Go
I had
ahead,
to
go
help
ahead.
him in Texas with all the snack. Like I had to say, now don't eat that now. Just wait. Felt like I was with one of my girls when they were little. Like, hold on, just don't eat that now. Just give it to me. I'll keep that for you. I'll give it to you on the plane. Then he's sound asleep. Right? He again,
Right.
as fast as Jake Auer hit the three, that's how fast he goes to sleep on the plane. So I'm still awake. The snack comes through. The snack basket comes through. He's still asleep. So I grab one for myself, have to grab one for him, drop it over onto his seat.
Well, if you're handling food advice for Tony, he must be in bad shape because you're a notorious bad food manager.
He thinks I have a tape for him. I don't think so. Anyway, just responding to your call to action regarding bingo information. Remember I brought this up a while back, like what's bingo?
Yes. This
Like,
is good because I've got one after this. This is good.
my mother is a professional player on the senior bingo circuit in the Mid-Ohio Valley.
Very good.
Tour stops include destinations like the Pennsboro Fire Hall, the Smithville Fire Hall, and the Knights of Columbus.
Perfect.
There used to be another location, but it appeared to be some sort of a speakeasy that was shut down by the state. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that on this program. Anyway, she takes it seriously, and she seems to enjoy herself. Unclear if that is from the love of the game or she's getting high from the bingo dauber fumes.
Gives you love of the game.
P.S. In the Always a West Virginia Connection Department, Travis Braden, the WVU grad, is an engineer for Hendrick Motorsports. They own the car that just won the Daytona 500, driven by William Byron. Love the show. We've had Travis on in the past. He was a racer. He was a driver, and he's a very super. I mean, obviously, he graduated from engineering at WVU. I did not realize that he was now an engineer for the Hendrick Motorsports team. Signed by
Congratulations.
Pete in Pennsboro.
Got himself a world's championship.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, real quick, I got one bingo thing too.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys will find this interesting because you know the person.
Oh, boy.
Oh, okay.
From our guy Duca over at the wine
Yeah.
bar. And no, it's not about a Jerry Ball McCamus.
Oh, jeez.
Duca says, catching up on the podcast, to the question of bingo being profitable, yes, exclamation points. Yes, it's very profitable.
Really?
If you'd like to know the ins and outs of the game, we can crack a couple of root beers open or Connection 304s, and I can tell you some stories. Here's the kicker. Remember, Duca says, I was an assistant cruise director on cruise ships. I've called more games than most people have played. Duca lining up making elk and calling bingo.
With a root beer reduction. So he was a bingo caller.
On a I do know that.
Probably
We
did
talked about
everything on
cruises
the cruise
before.
ship.
Yeah, assistant cruise director. I mean, he'd give you some good ones.
Did everything. We got to talk to him about that.
I bet you he's got buzz. Can you imagine the crazy stories coming out of cruises?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So there you go. There's some. I knew bingo would get some traction. Duca weighing in.
Okay, so let me leave it at this.
So also, if you go over to the wine bar to have a little meal, you can ask Duca about
Yeah.
Bingo while you're there.
His kid's still working over there?
Yeah. Will.
Yeah. Good kid. Yeah, good
Both
kid.
are. Elise as well.
She's working. That's the way kids should work. So we're making progress. We've brought you the situation in Martinsburg regarding Mountaineer popcorn and that sign. So they moved and have a new location. They've got the Shepherdstown location and the Martinsburg location. In the Martinsburg location, the pre-existing building was a seafood place. So there's a seafood sign above the entrance, okay? And there seems to be some issue.
It's still there as the popcorn place is open and operating, right? That's the issue?
And it says like Fish World or something like that on there.
There it is.
There it is. Season's best seafood.
Yeah.
But yet there's not seafood in there. There's popcorn in there.
Yeah. So here's the deal, man. So we've been incrementally making some progress to allow the people at Mountaineer Popcorn to simply put something on that same frame that says Mountaineer Popcorn, right? Because they don't sell seafood.
So the structure's in place.
Yeah. So the good news is this. There has been a scheduled hearing for a variance on 4 March coming up here, March the 4th.
Okay, good.
And so there it is. The public hearing is set for March 4th. We're making progress. Listen, I'm not trying to lead a ton of people to run into this hearing and just scream and yell, because that's not the three guys' way. But if by chance, maybe like Gail, for example, who's a great listener out there in Martinsburg, Gail will say, she might show up, just say, hey, let them put the popcorn sign up and we can get this thing finally done so we can help people get that unbelievably good popcorn.
I would think the fine folks over there making that decision would say this seems really common sense, unless we're just missing something completely, right?
That's what I keep
the
thinking.
The business is there. Why wouldn't you be allowed to put the name of the actual business on the sign? Are we missing something? Hoppy? You've done shows about business for a long time. They just want to put the name of the business on the sign.
Yeah,
Why do we have to keep the name of a business up there that is
Yeah.
not the name of the business? Are we missing
I feel
something?
like we must be missing something. I don't know. Or hear me out. Or we can ask our popcorn people to have crab-flavored popcorn.
I mean, it's
Just an idea, throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Just like to put the name of the business.
So maybe if a couple of diplomatic listeners to three guys might have something, if you're not doing anything on the 4th of March, head over and say, hey, we strongly believe that they should have a sign on above their building of the product that they are selling. I'm sure we can get this resolved without any issues.
I just think everybody would want that. I can't possibly imagine what the objection to that would be.
And let me just tell you this. Homeless Dave brought me a big bag of that caramel with the nuts in it, popcorn.
Is this another bag or the first bag?
No, this was that one.
That we crushed?
Yes. Every single thing I've tasted from there is absolutely you can't stop eating it.
I agree.
That's the problem. Actually, that's the problem with it.
Yeah.
Once you start, it's
well,
just
the problem, yeah. So anyway.
Well, yeah, you should have seen what we did to the bag in his office.
Oh, really? Killed it?
Yeah. It was almost ate the paper. It was really, really good. All right. Thanks for being with us. We're back Thursday. We'll recap the very important TCU game and then preview the 17-day road trip to Utah.
And if you're at the game, come say hello. Hope there's a big crowd tomorrow. Hope they need some energy in the building. Come say hello to us.
Yeah. Load
up,
man.
You guys are gone so long, you'll be Mormon. By the time you get
We'll
back.
be back the week of the first football game, Hoppy.
Three Guys brought to us by Jan Dills, attorneys at law. They won't take no for an answer. By Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. By GoMart, get a GoMart rewards card. Go to GoMart.com for details. By Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They sell family fun. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. By Tudor's Biscuit World, start your day the homemade way with a Tudor's Biscuit. Conley's CPA Group, sponsor of Spreads on Stats, providing value beyond numbers. Real quick before we go away, who wins, Texas Tech or the Houstons?
I feel like this is Houston's turn.
Really?
Well, Tech got him down there in a.
No.
Yeah.
You think you got Tech winning?
Tech wins.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Tech wins. Lines up, beats them. All right, so there's a kiss of death. Thank you, Hoppy.
Thank you.
Stay well. Back on Thursday. Thanks to our producer, Jake. We're out. Three Guys before the game over and done.